order that you're going to teach the phonograms, okay? A lot of times the phonograms are taught in alphabetical order, and that has absolutely nothing to do with teaching penmanship, because penmanship is teaching motor patterns. And the alphabet is just a nice way of organizing words that we can all agree on, okay? It's just a way of organizing words in a dictionary. It's a way of remembering the letters, but it has absolutely nothing to do with motor patterns. And so what we're going to do instead is we're going to teach the letters by their first stroke, because we're reinforcing the strokes. We're not going to teach in alphabetical order. So in Cursive First, we have 4 different kinds of letters based on their first stroke. We have the clock letters. We have loop letters. The first stroke involves a loop. Then we have the uphill letters. And then we have the hump. And yes, when I taught a, ah, and ks, I started with the uphill, but it is basically a clock face stroke because I'm incorporating that clock face stroke. Okay. And so I teach in this order. I teach them based on the first stroke because I'm reinforcing motor patterns. By the time I get to z, they know them. They know them, okay? And we can learn the alphabet another time when that's pertinent to what we're studying. Another thing is I want to teach lowercase only. I do not want to teach uppercase. A lot of times children are taught this is a lowercase a, this is a capital A. And I will tell you, when you're teaching manuscript, that is why kids keep interchanging the two together. You'll see a child writes a word and in the middle of it, there's a capital letter. When you teach them together and you say, this is capital, this is lowercase, you are telling the child by doing that, these are interchangeable, and they're not. Capital letters there are very specific rules for when we use capital letters, and with cursive, you can't accidentally stick a capital letter in the middle of a word. We have to be very purposeful when we're writing capital letters. So with this method, we will teach capital letters on an as-need-know basis. So the first capital letter a child will learn is the first letter in their name, okay? Because that is a need-know basis. And then we will teach the capital letters based on the first stroke, okay? Again, it's reinforcing motor patterns. 95% or more of what we write is lowercase. And so the child remember, what is the definition of penmanship? To be able to quickly and legibly reproduce the sounds of the language. And if 95% or more of what we are writing is lowercase, then guess what I need to be quick at? I need to know how to write quickly the lowercase letters. Okay, you will notice as I went through that process of teaching, I had a specific dialogue. The child will learn the dialogue. For those of you that are using the Cursive First, the dialogue is right there on the back of the card. So let me talk briefly about the stages of verbalization and what I mean by that. When you're first introducing, you have very specific dialogue. Start on the baseline, go up and over to 2 on the clock, stop. That is very specific pen movement, finger movement instruction. Once a child has that, and they go through that pretty quickly, and they are learning the dialogue, you can say, tell me, I'm going to write, you tell me, and they have to know that dialogue. Okay, remember, we don't have a visual model. We are training muscle movement from memory, and so verbalizing this dialogue is part of that process. So first we start with the actual process. Then we move into naming the stroke. So you notice when I went and put all 3 strokes together to write the a, ah, I said, let's do the short uphill stroke, the clock face stroke, the connector. I didn't say start on the baseline, go up and over to 2 on the clock. I abbreviated it to just the name of that stroke. So once the child can do the writing with the very specific detailed instructions, then we move to just do a short uphill stroke. And they know up and over to 2 on the clock, stop, or up and over 10, over to 2. They know that because they've practiced that. Okay, then we just put naming the stroke. Now, let's say I've been practicing this for a few days with my child, and I say, okay, can you write a, ah? And they say short uphill stroke, and they name it. They tell me what they're doing. They say short uphill stroke, clock face, connector. And I say, great. Okay, well, I mean, they're just like, whoop, whoop, whoop. They're, like, oh, can I go out and play? I've got this. I'm on it. I know what I'm doing. They say, let's try it a new way today. Instead of naming the strokes, let's practice saying the phonogram while we write it. And now we're going to say ah, a, ah. And so now I'm linking those sounds very specifically to the motor patterns to form that letter. So I am linking the sounds very, very specifically. We have people all the time who ask us, why do you recommend that I have the phonogram cards if all I'm doing is teaching penmanship? Do you see how it is important to link the sounds, that symbol that you're teaching the writing for, linking the sounds to the symbol? You are imprinting in the mind more than just how to write a letter. You're teaching the language. You're teaching the written code at the single letter stage. So we started with specific dialogue for finger or marker movement. We moved to naming the stroke. We moved to saying the sounds in the phonogram. And finally, we're going to move, when we're writing a word, to only saying the sound that that phonogram makes in the word. Now, let me give you an example. The letter A, okay, a, that has 3 sounds. Okay, a, k, s. How many sounds does that have? 2. Okay, now when I write the word cat, I am not saying k, s, a, t. That's, whoop, I did that backwards. I am not saying each of the sounds of those phonograms. I don't say that when I say the word cat. I say k, a, t. And so we're going to move to the point where we can put the phonograms together and write words, and we only say the sound that that phonogram is saying in that word. So I would say k, a, t, cat. So do you see how I've moved the stages of verbalization? Start with very specific instructions, move to naming the stroke, move to saying the sounds, and finally only the sound it says in that specific word.